What about there's this constant interplay between renunciation and action, like Samkhya and yoga, right? And they're kind of like, well, what's better? Should I just? I mean, Krishna says, but I mean. First of all, sorry, Arjuna's saying, well, I don't want any part of this. I'm going to renounce. It seems the obvious course, right? And we're with him in the first chapter, like, don't, like Ahimsa, don't kill anyone, just sit down, and it's kind of a surprise in the opening of the second chapter where Krishna is quite bloodthirsty. He says, go into the battle, kill and be famous, right? I mean, it's, so it's, it's an active, if we contrast it, say, to the sutras, for example, which is very much a renunciate's text, the Gita is a householder's active text. I mean, should we be using our practice not just as renunciates, as a kind of quietist thing, going into our caves, or whether it be a man cave at home or an actual cave in the Himalaya, and should we be actually using our practice for action in the world, for social action in the world? Because as we all know, the cliche is, you've got 5% of your life on the yoga mats, and most of your yoga must be inevitably elsewhere,
Mm-hmm. Well, and our experience is that that's a very, very good question, and that, yes, that we do our practices in order to be more interactive and of better service in the world, in our circumstances. And if you are practicing well, whether you plan to do that or not, it happens. It's something that it's almost like this residue that happens if you practice consistently over a long period of time, the way the Yoga Sutra, recommends, that if you're practicing well, you feel better, you feel healthier, you feel happier, you see others more fully. And whether you plan on it or not, it's almost like your practice just filters out into the other aspects of your life. And then when you have the intention of doing something good in the world, then you have the momentum going to actually make a difference and actually take action that will make a difference. And there is some responsibility. Once you practice for a long time, you start seeing actually there is a lot of responsibility to do that.
Yeah. And so Krishna, maybe chapter 5, he's saying, if, I don't need it. He was explaining to Arjuna that I don't need anything, being Brahman, and being, beyond time and space and thought. And he says, yet, if I didn't act, that would set a bad example for others. And so I keep coming back in order to help others. And so, which is really the idea of the bodhisattva in Buddhism, like I come back, just to show that, serving others is really the ultimate yoga practice.
I mean, Mary, you hit upon something with the sutra quote, which is consistently with the right attitude, right? And that kind of ties in with the idea of duty in the Gita. I mean, this right attitude and the duty in the Gita, I mean, isn't that a kind of $1 million question, right? Like, especially these days. I mean, I think in chapter 17 of the Gita or something, Krishna says, well, your duty's obvious, right? You're in the Kshatriya class, and the Shudras do this, and the Brahmins do that, and and the Kshatriyas do that. It's kind of clear, like your duty, with cow herding, and you list a bunch of stuff, right? Each one do, right? That's not really appropriate, obviously, these days for most of us that aren't with cows. But
partly in the Mahabharata and the Gita, that's also like an obvious. In the greater story, it's almost making fun of the caste system, because there are many examples or characters in there who have to violate, what they think their social caste is, in order to help others. And so the Mahabharata, I think,
You think the Gita is as well?
Yeah, in the Gita also. And so you'll always have classes, even if you have a pure communist state, which is maybe coming, you'll still find that there are characters within it who are more elite, who organize things, or who have all the money or all the power, or who exploit others. So social caste is something that happens in any group of people. Okay. But traditionally in India is defined by varna, or color, which is referring to your skin color, basically, which is like, whoa. And there are a number of characters in there that, this is almost being made, you can't get rid of the fact that people have, but you find out what your actual Dharma is, rather than that which is given by birth. It's that, which is your swadharma and your...
Yeah, and your Dharma becomes something that is very context dependent. And
yeah, I suppose the question is how do we know what that might be? Our duty, our right attitude towards life, and does yoga help figure that out?
I think it does. I mean, I think that, my personal experience with that is that, that it is very, very helpful to have an acknowledgement within your own sort of private mind space somewhere of what it is you feel you want to contribute to this world, to perhaps alleviate suffering, to perhaps bring peace to the world, something that really, truly is sort of a big thing that is like your pole star.
Right.
And then if you have that, then you kind of know, oh, I have this particular Dharma for this instant or this moment or this role that I'm in as a teacher, as a mother, as a, student, etc. You have a particular Dharma. But then when you step back and say, and underlying that is my ethical underpinning, which again is spoken about in the Gita, it's spoken about in the Yoga Sutra, that having a sense of your swadharma essentially being something that is ethical ground, whatever that means to you, that then starts to help you see, oh, well, this situation that I've put into this story of what my Dharma is needs to be tweaked a little because of the dissonance between my ethics and my moral ground and the context. And so yoga helps us to see a bit more clearly. And in that vision of things a bit more clearly, we begin to be able to see where our Dharma is taking us and where we can navigate it.
Yeah, to evolve to our swadharma. And then if you think you know your swadharma, find your swadharma. You get that. You just keep adding swas to it because it's always beyond what you think it is. And finally at the very end, it's like Krishna is explaining, just whatever you do, just do it, for me and other beings, everything will work out fine, basically. And then he says, do it, and then do what you want, Arjuna. Meaning, in this situation, find out what you think is the best thing and do that.
And give up all Dharma.
And then he says, he pauses, then he says, oh, and then because you're very beloved to me, he resisted, he thought he'd finished the teaching. Then he said, Sarva Dharman Parit, give up all dharmas. And this is again the Dharma Mega Samadhi that's in the Yoga Sutra, that is actually, it's a Buddhist concept. And there's no other mention of it. But give up all these dharmas and just take refuge. It doesn't come to me. Take shelter in me, which is again a Buddhist concept. Sharanam mam ekam sharanam vraja. Just come to me for shelter, for refuge, which is again a Buddhist term. And but you're seeing through all dharmas, duties, formula, even good dharmas, because that's all the great scriptures, and all of the great religions that, when interpreted well, are good, and all of them are empty, or all of them they form this cloud of prakriti, which are just gunas acting on the gunas. And what's your problem? You're thrown back to the second chapter.
It's kind of like he gives all these teachings, and at a certain point he just says, well, if you can't do any of that, then just act, but don't be attached to the actions.
Exactly.
Right? You can't do yoga or you can't think. Well, don't worry about it. But you just act anyway. Just do your action, but don't be attached. What does that mean? What does being? I mean, we hear this action, but act, but don't be attached to the fruits of your actions, right? And that's constantly in the Gita, again and again and again. What I mean, people try this, right? In daily life, and and it's rather hard,
Yeah.
because,
Well, when you
we want certain outcomes. Naturally speaking.
When you try too hard to not be attached to the fruits of your actions, you become quite attached to not being attached. And so,
hence the yoga personality is formed.
And so, really what it means is you have to have some aim, but then you have to also be able to, start moving towards whatever it is, and then reframe whatever actions you're taking, whatever aim you have, reframe it according to the circumstances that arise. And so it's not just, don't have any attachments, meaning, I don't even care if I ever do anything, and I'll just sit here and watch, TV all night, which actually sometimes sounds like a good solution to
Then you
things,
become attached to that.
But that you really truly, make, you have some chi, you've got some ideas about what you want to do, but then you don't hold on to those ideas of what they are.
Right, because somehow you feel intrinsic happiness or intrinsic joy, and you're not depending on any circumstance for that, whether you're loved by others or hated by others. And this is, again, many times in the Gita, what does it matter if... And so one of the things... And interestingly, Krishna keeps redefining himself, because we start out with this, Krishna is just, he's God. And what does that mean, actually? So Arjuna is going to investigate that, and it doesn't mean exactly what he thought it meant. And Krishna comes down off of the pedestal that we've placed him on, and which we naturally do, because that whenever you think, that's the guru, or that's Ishvara or something, you have an idea of what that is. Otherwise you wouldn't even use the term in your mind. And you place them on a pedestal, either up in the air or down below, like a Greek theater or something, a lowly pedestal. And what Krishna keeps doing is he keeps coming off the pedestal and saying, no, I'm the pedestal, and I'm this. And he keeps appearing. He says, this is me. You're experiencing me, and this is where embodiment comes. You're experiencing me in the taste of water. It's not like the water tastes because I, as a distant creating deity, created a causal chain that made water taste good. No, I am actually the taste. So you're having an immediate experience, or the smell of the earth, which is, and I guess even that would be stinky earth sometimes, but.
And that's really what non-attachment is when you are able to see that and experience those things as so much more rich than your idea of, say, what water is or what Krishna himself is. And so
you're actually giving up the theistic.
Yeah.
I mean, yes, when Arjuna finds...
because it doesn't make any sense anymore.
And the non-attachment becomes sort of a gesture, a sincere gesture of generosity to others, because you you are not invested in the outcome. You are invested in the authenticity. And that's really where it becomes a gesture of generosity, a gesture of interconnectedness.